Hello students, how are you all?
Good, ma'am.
Great. Today we'll talk about the maps, the different type of maps, the symbols used, and we'll talk about the sketch and plans. Now first let us know what is a map. Map is the representation, or we can say it is the drawing of the earth's surface on a plain flat surface. We can draw either the entire surface or we can take some parts of it for better references. Now students, we have learned in the previous chapter that globe also represents the surface of the earth. Can you tell me what is the difference between the globe and the map?
Ma'am, globe is bigger.
Ma'am, globe is round.
Ma'am, map is smaller.
Yes, that is correct. The globe is bigger as compared to the map. It is more easy to carry a map than compared to a globe. The globe is circular, thus it cannot allow us to see all the areas that are shown in the globe together. But we can see all the areas together on a map since it is on a flat surface. Alright students, now we know what is the difference between a globe and a map and what is a map. Now let's know about the types of maps. When we talk about the types of maps, here we will study about the physical map, the political map and the thematic maps. First, let's talk about the physical maps. The maps that show the physical features of the earth's surface like mountains, oceans, rivers, hills, these are the physical maps. When we talk about the political maps, these are the maps that show the boundaries of different countries, their states, probably cities, towns, villages, etc. These are the political maps that show the boundaries. When we talk about the thematic maps are which focus on some specific features like the rainfall map, how much rainfall occurs in which area. The railways, what is the railway layout of a particular town. We can talk about the number of vehicles available in a city that are available on the road that travel. We can talk about the number of housing in a particular apartment, etc. So these are the different types of maps through which we get to know about the various types of activities that take place in the country, the borders and the various physical features. Alright, so now we know about what are maps and the types of maps. Now let's study the main components, that are the three main components of maps, that are distance, direction and symbols. First, we will be talking about distance. As we know, map is the representation of earth on a flat surface. That means that the distances which are big are considered on the map on a small scale. When we say a small scale, first let us know how do we measure the distance on a map. Whenever we measure the distance on a map, we use a scale. A scale is the ratio between the distance on the ground with the distance on the map. Say if I say 10 kilometers of the ground distance and I equate it with 1 centimeter on the map, that is the scale where my 10 kilometers of the ground will be represented by 1 centimeter on the map by the use of the scale. Thus, the scale helps us to lower down the distance and show larger areas on the map. Now let's talk about the small scale maps and the large scale maps. First, we'll talk about the large scale maps. The large scale maps are those where we show small areas like town and villages on a larger piece of paper so that we can study very well defined and precise features of these particular areas. Suppose I want to study about a township. I want to know how many communities are living there, how many people of different communities are there, what are the number of families and how many members are there in a family. For each specification, I can prepare one particular map where I will have features of all these specifications. Thus, small information on a large map. So, we will use the large scale over here. Thus, they are the large scale maps. Now, let's talk about the small scale maps. When we talk about the bigger features like the oceans, continents, countries, but we put them on a small piece of paper, we put them in a form of map. So, the bigger features are put together on a small scale. Thus, the scale used is small. So, the bigger features of the world can be put together on a small piece of paper and from there we can study about them like it is done on a globe. So now we know why we refer to a map instead of going to a globe when we have to study about big features together. Why? Because the globe gives us an overall view, but when we take a map, we can go to the specific features of the particular area that we want to study. So students, after knowing what are the large scale and small scale maps, we can surely say that the large scale maps are more precise and vast in nature. Now students, tell me one thing. If I plot your school on one map and I plot your classroom on another map, which map will be the large scale map?
Ma'am, school map.
Okay.
Ma'am, I think class map.
Yes.
Ma'am, class map.
Alright. So the answer is class map. Why? Because we have a smaller area about which we will be studying, and thus we can have more features to study and know about. Alright students, now let's talk about the second component, that is direction. When we talk about direction, first thing to know is that there are four directions, that are north, south, east and west. These are known as the cardinal points. Apart from these, we have four intermediate points, that are northeast and north-south, southeast and southwest. Most of the maps have the north direction on the upper right hand corner of it. Once the north direction is identified, all other directions can be easily detected. Now, first of all, how do we know the directions? We get to know the directions by the use of a compass. What is a compass? Compass is an instrument by which we can identify the various directions. The magnetic needle of the compass is always pointed towards the north-south direction, and thus we can identify the directions using this instrument. As we know, we cannot draw each and every feature that we are talking about on the surface of the map. Reason being, we cannot draw buildings, railways, trees, etc. always. So what do? In this case, we use symbols. Symbols can be in the form of certain letters, patterns, colors, shapes, lines, etc. When we say that we use these symbols, what do? We recognize each symbol for a particular feature and then we put it in the map and use it for our own study patterns. These symbols are universally accepted and they are used irrespective of the language. Why? The reason is so that any person who knows any language can universally read the map, can know the directions and understand where he has to go ahead. So, there is no language constraint in the study of maps because of the symbols.
Some of the conventional symbols are shown in the picture. You can see that various colors are used to represent these symbols. You can see that blue color has been used in the symbols which represent water bodies. Similarly, we use brown color for mountains, yellow color for plateaus and green color for plains.
These symbols are also known as the conventional symbols since they are universally accepted. Students, I am sure you must have heard of the term sketch. But when we talk about a sketch in geography, it is not about the sketch that you make in your drawing classes. When we talk about a sketch in geography, it is an imagination or it is something based on your memory that you draw on a piece of paper to get the idea of a particular place, various landmarks of it and a few features through which you can at least have some details roughly about that area. At times, we draw a sketch of a particular area, say a market that you go frequently to tell someone the area you travel through, the places you start from, the main landmarks that you cross and then you reach the particular place. So, we know what is a sketch. Now, let's take an interesting example to understand this better. Suppose there is a friend of yours who wants to visit your house but does not know the directions. What will you do? One day the same happened with me. My friend wanted to come my house but did not know the directions. You know what I did? I drew a sketch of my house. I drew a sketch to show the directions from her house to my house. I put down the major landmarks and the features that could help her out to reach from her house to my house. That is a sketch. Now let's talk about what is a plan. It is not the kind of plans that you make out with your parents for picnics. When we talk about geography, a plan is something different. In geography, plan is about talking about a particular small area on a very large scale. Suppose I talk about a society layout on a piece of paper on a map. But now I don't want to know about the society as a whole, the apartments as a whole. Rather, I want to know about the measurements of a particular room in a society. What will I do? There I'll refer to a map, to a plan of the map. Why? Because the plan will show me the accurate measurements of the room, the length and breadth, the height, everything along with the pillars in the room. So, a plan is always referred when we need very minute details of a small area on a large scale. That is a plan. So students, we studied about what are maps, the difference between the globe and a map. As we know, they are the representatives of the Earth's surface. Don't forget that point. And we studied about the types of maps, physical, political, thematic, sketch, plans, etc. I hope you enjoyed the class, you are clear with the doubts. I'll see you in the next class. Goodbye, take care. Let's recapitulate. Map is a representation or a drawing of the Earth's surface or a part of it drawn on a flat surface according to a scale. Map has three components: distance, direction and symbols. Physical map are those which show the physical features like mountains, plains, rivers, etc. The political maps are those which show boundaries of countries, states, capitals, etc. Thematic maps are those which show specific information like the distribution of rainfall, temperature, crops, etc. Scale is the ratio between the actual distance on the ground and the distance shown on the map. We have cardinal and intermediate directions. A sketch is a drawing mainly based on memory and spot observation and not on scale. A plan is a drawing of a small area on a large scale.